Okay, we're going to practice making some lines today. First, I'm going to go to my images. You will go on your iPad and you can pull out any pre-saved images that you had. I'm going to pull one here off my desktop. So I'm going to try this snowflake out. I'm going to, you can move this snowflake. You can slide it where you want it to be at. If you want to place it at a certain place on your grid by clicking on there. Okay, now let's say I want to match one of these snowflake lines. I'm going to match this line right here that's going up this way. I can see it's crossing around 2, and if I want to look at the slope, it looks like up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, something like that. So I'm looking at a slope that would be like y equals 1 over 1 would just be 1x, and I was looking at plus 2. Looks good, matches pretty good, so there's really not much adjustment to make there. If I want to match this line here, it's going to be similar. It's again crossing at 2, but it looks like the slope is now going downhill, so it definitely has negative slope. So because it looks like a reflection of my positive line, it's probably a -1 slope. So I'm going to say y equals -1x plus 2. Let's say I don't like that color. I can hold that down, and let's say I want it to show up better, so I'm going to try orange. I'm going to make that color orange. So that would be 2 lines right there that I made of my snowflake. If I needed to restrict the domain, if I'm on starred level and I needed to restrict the endpoints, then if I go back to this red line, I want it to stop about here. So that looks to be about, this is -2, -3, about -3.5. And it looks like over here I'm going to about +3.5. So if I go back to my red line and I put in my brace and I say I'm going to go from a -3.5 my x to a +3.5. So I'm saying my x is actually greater than a negative and less than the positive, and that's going to make it stop. And you can see the tips are pretty good right there. If I thought that was hanging over a little bit, I might say, well, let's try that and make that a 4, maybe 4, 5 to hit right to the end, maybe 4, 9, right to that very tip perfectly. And then I could do the same on the orange. Looks very similar to where I would put my brace in and say -3.5 is less than x, which is less than +3.5, and that would brace as well. And I would have 2 lines restricted in the domain. If I wanted to do this line straight across the middle, that has no slope. That's just a 0x, but it has a y-intercept of 2. So that would be y equals 0x, which is just 0 plus 2. So it's just y equals 2 across that middle there. And again, if I want to do this straight up and down line, that has undefined slope. That's just, if it's straight up and down, well, let's go back to straight across. If it's straight across, it's going to be a y equals whatever the grid line is. And if it's vertical, straight up and down, it's just going to be an x equals whatever that grid line is. So because this grid line is when x equals 0, we're going to say x equals 0. Hard to see. I don't know if I have much more color choice. I'm going to go black line. Shows up a little bit better there. And that would give me that. And I could restrict those as well if I wanted to. Hope this helps.